Hey out there, I'm Jim Heskett, the Juggling author, and I'm talking to you today about Dragon Dictation and how you can use it to increase your word count. First of all, I already recorded a video like this a couple months ago, but I've gotten a new webcam, so hopefully this version is going to be much higher quality. That's my hope. Second, this is my microphone. If you're wondering what this strange thing is right here, that's just my microphone on the windscreen, so don't worry about that. So, when I wrote the book, The Juggling Author, in 2017, there was a chapter on dictation, and I didn't write that chapter. That chapter was written by a friend of mine named Zach Bohannon, who's a horror and post-apocalyptic author. And I asked him to write it because I knew that dictation was that there would probably something I would want to cover in a book about time management. But I didn't use dictation at all. So I knew Zach did, so I asked him to write that chapter and contribute that to the book. And so at the time, one of the things that I said when people would ask me, well, Jim, why don't you use dictation? And a valid question, my answer was usually something like, well, I'm proficient enough anyway without it. And while that may have been true, I wasn't really, the more honest answer is that I hadn't just sunk the time or the money into getting the Dragon dictation software and buying equipment that I needed to do it. Well, it's now halfway through 2018, and I have spent the time to learn how to use Dragon. I bought the software. I bought some dictation equipment, and I got to say, it's great. It's made me so much more productive. And in this video, I'm going to go through the software and the hardware that I use. First of all, the software, I use Dragon for Mac, and it's version 6.0.8. And I think one of the reasons that I had trouble pulling the trigger on getting into this was because Dragon for Mac has tons of bad reviews. A lot of people talk smack about it. And so there's two parts to the software. There's dictation and transcription. Now, what I'm calling dictation is actually transcription, and that's the process of speaking into a handheld recorder, then taking a file from that recorder and translating it into English. That's transcription. Dictation is where you sit in front of your computer and you say words into a microphone like this, and then the words appear on the screen. Dragon dictation apparently is horrible. But I talked to a bunch of other authors that I knew. Before I did, I talked to some authors that I knew who were using Dragon, and I asked them about it, and they all said the same thing, that dictation is bad, the transcription works fine. And I don't think I would want to use dictation anyway, because if I was sitting here looking at my computer screen and dictating the words, I would feel the need to stop and go back and correct things, which is a first draft no-no anyway. But with transcription, I speak into the thing, then I translate it. I copy and paste the words from the RTF file that it gives me, and then I put them into Scrivener. Now, when I first got Dragon, part of it is that, so the Dragon Professional for Windows is apparently good. The Dragon for Mac was bad. I no longer have any Windows computers. I'm hashtag Mac only. And I didn't want to, so I was worried. But I bought Dragon. I went ahead and spent $200 on it. And then it came with 6.0.4 that was kind of buggy. I went to the Dragon website and got 6.0.8 and then installed that, and things have been much better. It does crash every once in a while, but such is life. I can deal with that. So that's the software side of it. Let me talk about the hardware side. So let me show you my gear bag. This is just a little Amazon Basics kit so that I can slide it into my backpack, because I'm mostly using dictation when I am in the car, because I still have a day job. So I slide this into my backpack, and I'll usually dictate some words on the way to work, and then might copy the file as soon as I get to work before I actually start working. So here is my bag. So let's see what we've got in here. Over here on the left is my Zoom H1. Put that right up there. The Zoom H1 uses, it just takes, can I open the thing? I'm not going to open the thing. It just takes a AA battery, and it uses a micro SD card. I don't have a very big one in there because I don't need to record, hours and hours worth of audio. I'm only recording like 20-30 minutes at a time. That reminds me of another important point. One of the reasons why I was hesitant to pull the trigger on getting into dictation was because I couldn't imagine just being like blah 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 blah. Like when I'm typing, the words come to me, but when I'm just imagining a scene in my head, the words don't come to me that fast. But what I realized after I bought the software and bought all the hardware is that you don't have to do it like that. You can speak completely differently. Like I will dictate and it goes like this. He walked into the room, period. As the door shut behind him, comma, he noticed a strange thing on the opposite wall, period. You see, there's that dead space there between the sentences because the Dragon software will skip over all that blank space and just delete it and ignore it. So you can dictate for 30 minutes and actually only have, 7-8 minutes of actual speaking, and that other 20 or so minutes, it doesn't matter. Dragon just deletes it. And that's what makes it, that's the best part, because I'll say a sentence and then stop and think about what I want the next sentence to be so it can be fully formed before the words leave my mouth. So this is the Zoom. In my, what else do I have in here in my gear bag? Let me hold it back up. So I have got a USB-C, because I got a MacBook, USB-C to micro or mini USB. I don't remember which one it is. It's whatever is on the Zoom. So that's for copying it over. I've also got down here, I have a spare battery because I always never want to be out somewhere and using that Zoom and have it die. That would be horrible if I was away from my computer. And then finally in here I have what is known as a dead cat. Now this is for the dead cat, as you probably already guessed, slides over the top, does not slide very easily. But it's like this, and this is mostly for when you're walking around your neighborhood so you can get really strange looks from people. That's the primary purpose of why you would buy the dead cat. No, I'm just kidding. So the dead cat is muffles wind. I've only used it a couple times. I used it on the treadmill once, and I didn't really notice a huge difference. I did use it when I was walking my dog once, and that was the only time I ever took this recorder while I was walking my dog, because it was just like with this in one hand and the dog leash in the other hand, it was a whole lot to manage. Besides, I'm like focused on him and trying to get him to not chase bunnies or eat other dogs. So usually when I'm dictating, I don't want a whole lot else around. So the dead cat is only for emergencies. Most of the time when I'm dictating, what I'll do is I'm in my car. That's the primary time when I'm doing this. Or sometimes if I'm home alone, and I don't feel like sitting in front of the keyboard, I'll walk around my house. I'll just kind of pace around my house and use this. That's how the last book that I did with this was Lane Parish #3. And the first draft was, like 40-something thousand words. And probably at least half of those words were dictated. Compared to the first time I used it, where I was maybe only a quarter. It's really, really growing on me. But like I was saying, most of the time I'm in my car, and I can just drop this in the center console, and it's actually going to be, it's actually going to be, like 3 feet away from my mouth, and it picks it up just fine. And then that way I can have both hands on the steering wheel, 10 and 2, because this is how you're supposed to drive. And so then I just will copy it to my computer. When I'm done, it reads an RTF file. I Control-C all that, then I Control-V all that into Scrivener. And so then instead of, and that way, like when I get to work in the morning, I'm already, it's a 25-minute commute, and I've been dictating the whole time. I've gotten maybe 700, 800 words that I write there. So whereas in a normal day when I'm in first draft mode, if I can write, like maybe 2,000 words a day, because, as a juggling author, I'm a super busy dude. And so I'm only getting like an hour and a half throughout the day to write. But when I'm dictating, that adds another 50 to 60 minutes of travel time and dictation time. I'm adding another 1,600 words. So I'm going from like 2,000 to 3,500 words a day. And Lane Parish number 3, the first draft, would have probably taken me 3 weeks if I was only typing, but with dictating, I got that first draft done in 2 weeks, which for me, as busy as I am, is a significant improvement. So that's my gear, and the software I use is Dragon. Don't be scared of it if you're a Mac user, even though it has really bad reviews on Amazon. I think a lot of those people are giving it bad reviews because they're trying to use the dictation feature, not the transcription. I think it's probably purchased by a lot of people who maybe have hand problems, carpal tunnel, so they're thinking they're just going to plug it in and type everything into their computers, and it doesn't work quite right. You do have to train the software a bit. There's some words that I say that it has trouble hearing for some reason, even though I've tried to train it. Like, it has trouble with Lane. Like in the book I'm writing, the hero's name is Lane. It's Layne. And every time I say Lane, it puts it in as Elaine or Lane, Lane, like a street, or something else. And so usually when the little trick workaround I do is that when I'm dictating, I refer to him as Bobby. I'll say, Bobby walked in there. Hey, Bobby, how you doing? And then I just search and replace Bobby for Lane when I'm done. And I also do that if there's weird. The book I'm writing features a lot of Russian characters with non-standard kinds of names, non-American kinds of names. So I give them names like Tim or Steve, and then I search and replace after that. Anyway, so in conclusion, I wish I hadn't waited so long to pick up using dictation. I was hesitant to pull the trigger because of all the reasons I specified before, but it was absolutely worth the time investment to figure out how to do it, and it was worth the money investment. You know, I reinvested some of my book money into this, and it was well worth it. So if you're hesitant to pull the trigger on getting into dictation, if you're busy like I am, I can absolutely recommend it.